that I can go with. Alright, the next issue, the next problem I have is twofold. One, because I've left all this wood here, it's sitting on this vise bed and it won't let it go down to engage this here and here. So it's got about 1.5 inches in the way. I got to just cut that out. Next thing is, this is 2 5/8 wide. This is a 2.5 inch vise jaw, 2.5 inch capacity. I got to take 1/8 of an inch off of this side back to along in about here, at least right there, to make it fit in this. So that's the first thing, is get this thin enough to fit in there, and also take out about 1.5 inches, give or take, in here. It's got to be about 1.5 inches higher. The problem is I drew put the lines on the other side where I can't see them. So I'm going to have to, after I get this milled, I'll shift and put my pattern, my original stock on this side, and I'll retrace my lines. Starting to look like kind of an odd duck. It's like one of those target rifles. I've had to make a shim to put underneath here because I didn't have enough wood to reach down and touch the base, the inside of that vise. And I couldn't figure out why this thing was sitting so weird, because usually I'll cut a little notch right here and this will sit about halfway up in there, usually. And this, I retraced my lines over here, and this usually touches up in here about like so. And I couldn't figure out why this just didn't seem to sit right. And I put the original stock up against a modern stock. It happened to be a Seiko rifle that I had sitting over there, and this heel, this toe of this butt drops down about 1 inch further down on the back. This thing's got a tremendous amount of slant right there. I don't know what the deal is with that, but that's the original dimensions of it. So I'm not gonna stray too far from that. I may shift this up a little bit. The more this drops down in the back, the more your gun kicks up whenever you fire it. The more slant there is between the top of the barrel and the stock, the more it's slanted like that, the more the gun kicks up. The flatter it is, the more it kicks back. And so you can acquire your target better on that second shot. You can put anti-kickback butt pads and things like that on to take care of the kick, the felt recoil. But when that thing kicks up, everything goes haywire. Modern guns are a lot flatter than this. And also I'm putting a cheek piece on here because the customer wanted it, and that will tip it up a little bit here. So between the two, I'm not going to cut this thing when I do the outline. I'm not going to cut it to this outline. I'm going to give it a little bit of extra room so I can fudge it a little bit. But right now, since I've got this wedge glued in here, and it's in the vise, it's not going to go anywhere. That glue can be drying. I'm going to go ahead and surface this top, because that's what I got to do anyway. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my center lines and cut my outlines, stuff like that on it. Now I can cut the rest of my outline out, get a center line marked on this thing. I really need to wait on this wedge to dry. I'll probably give it a couple hours before I come back to it. The widest spot in this original stock is right there. This line is so critical. I know I get a little redundant talking about the center line, but everything goes from that center line. I think this line here is vertical. Should be able to just plunge straight down. This cavity on this original stock, it's got this little shelf, and then from here down, I think, best I can tell, that's a vertical cut. You can see where that receiver lug has been rubbing against it, where it's hitting real hard right there. And that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to take the impact. So I should be able to just measure the thickness of this receiver and just cut me a slot that wide that's centered with that mark. I should. And it goes up to right here. I should be able to mill that out. I don't see why I can't put it that way. I just checked something, and I am having a hard time believing that Winchester would do this. This slot is not parallel. It's 1.14 back here. It's 1.162 up here. This thing has got a taper going bigger on the front. I'm going to cut it out like it is, and then I'm going to mark me some new lines and make my taper. But I'm going to punch this all the way out down to the bottom and cut a slot completely out of it, because that trigger guard and the trigger assembly slips up in there, and it's the same width as the receiver underneath it. The furthest forward I can go with this cut and punch all the way out is 8 1/8 from this back of this semicircle to there, because that's where that little angled receiver, see, I can't go past right there, going all the way out the bottom. I'm glad I checked that right now. That would have been hard to fix later. That's got to be 1.14 on this end, and it is about 5,000 spirit. It's got to be 1.62 on this end, and it is 6.4. I got 2 thousandths of clearance here and about 3 or 4 thousandths of clearance right here to drop that receiver in on that taper. But I can't do that until I mill all this other stuff out and see where I am. I don't have any way of checking it except what I just did. Now I got to figure out what the top opening is out here. See, there's only about 3 inches of round barrel channel out here on this very end. The rest of it's just all open. See, this is a straight cut down. It's tapered with the barrel along in here, but it's a straight cut in there. And that straight cut goes all the way up to right there. You got about that much that's actually round bottom for a barrel to sit in. And that stops right there.